Hi, this is Cody DePodlo.
And this is Michael Weatherly, and I used to be on a show called NCIS. Now I'm on a podcast about NCIS, and it's called Off Duty. Today, we are going to talk about Season 3, Episode 4, Silver War. And not only that, we have a very special guest. His name is Brain. Can you tell me a little bit about something about Brain? Tell me more.
I couldn't have said it better, Michael. Brain, you know him, you love him. It's Mr. Jimmy Palmer himself.
Brain Dietzen.
Brain Dietzen, Ducky's right-hand man, the immaculate Brian Dietzen. My first year, anyway, of NCIS Season 3. Memorable and wonderful to me.
Welcome to Off Duty, an NCIS Rewatch podcast. Today on the show, Season 3, Episode 4, Silver War. Ziva returns. A 140-year-old iron casket shows up at the Smithsonian Institution. It contains the body of a UA Marine Staff Sergeant, so Gibbs and company investigate. The team chases the clues, follows a map, and figure out the story. At the time of this episode's release, October 11th, 2005, the first commercial Android smartphone, the HTC Dream, was announced. My Humps by Black Eyed Peas was number 3 on the U.S. charts, trailing Kanye West's Gold Digger, featuring Jamie Foxx and Mariah Carey's Shake It Off. And of course, Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, was playing in U.S. theaters, and it would later go on to win an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. And on October 11th, 2005, you and I were probably having fun somewhere on the planet Earth.
Definitely. First year.
The NCIS team in this episode investigates when the remains of a Marine are discovered in a Civil War casket. At the same time, Ziva David returns. You're back, baby. Having been appointed as the Mossad liaison officer to the Navy Naval Criminal Investigative Service, it is Silver War. We're going to talk to Brian Dietzen. Here we go.
Oh, you mean Dr. Burns?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that you said she was young.
Don't worry, Doctor. I have a merit badge in hiking.
I actually already did that, Doctor.
Then do it again.
You're writing a gossip column, Palmer?
Well, I was just informing Dr. Mallard so, white meat or dark, Dr. Mallard won't even let me sit in his chair without supervision. I'm sorry, Doctor. This is having a problem with the smell today.
This podcast is astonishing. And one of the reasons it's astonishing is your hair looks fantastic. But another reason is that we have extraordinary guests. And today, extraordinarily, we have none other than Jimmy Palmer, Mr. Brian Dietzen.
What a lead-in.
I almost went lumberjack, but I switched out into my Fred Perry.
I think you knew.
No, I went full lumberjack today because it was raining out and I have some waterproof shoes. And my son, who's now 14, he has the same size feet as me. And he's like, can I borrow some waterproof shoes? I don't have any. And I was like, yeah, sure. And then so I gave him my waterproof shoes. I was like, I got to figure out what am I going to wear. And then I saw these boots and I was like, I'll wear these boots. And it was, as I was going to my car, I was like, and I'm wearing a flannel. All right.
You're very rugged.
I'm going brawny.
Very Colorado.
It's Colorado.
It's very Colorado.
It is.
Hiking, Colorado.
Okay.
That's right.
So let's first begin, Brian Dietzen.
At the beginning.
Where were you born?
I was born.
Wow, you went.
We're going there.
It's like, how did it feel to be alive?
I was conceived in that. Sorry, no,
wait, hold on.
Wait, no, okay, past that part. I was born in Barrington, Illinois, which is the northwest suburb of Chicago, and I was raised there till I was 7. And then my whole family migrated out to Colorado, where I lived right outside of Boulder for the majority of my life, including college. I went to CU in Colorado as well. I stayed for college. Did a couple years in the Shakespeare Festival, lots of hiking, lots of mountainous activities, snowboarding, skiing.
Did you do this?
Of course I did. I'm from Colorado. We all say,
I meant the Shakespeare.
What the hell is that?
It's
I don't know. I was like, vocal
Classical
exercises.
training.
Let's just go in there.
Ha, ha, ha. Yes. We all spoke from our red balloon, our Kristen Linklater.
Red
see,
balloon.
Ha, ha, ha.
you guys are classically trained.
Yes.
I did a Snickers commercial and they said, hey, you could do this for a living.
And guess what? You're still doing it. So something went right for you.
Whoa, where'd you get this? Oh, he acted me. See?
See.
I thought he had a Snickers
So-
bar.
He out-acted
So
us.
talk
acted
about,
us.
I know that you and I both lived
Holy moly.
in Vancouver at the same time. You were doing a TV series when I was doing Dark Angela.
That's right.
Dark
Did
Angela.
I see you were you ever at the Sutton place? Because that's where we were.
That's where the action happened.
All the time.
I did several stays at the Sutton.
Yes.
Sutton.
Sutton, thank you.
And I got to know the bartender very well at the Sutton place. What was that TV show you were doing up there?
It was a show called My Guide to Becoming a Rock Star, and it was I played a drummer in it, and we were up there for
Could you
a
play
year.
drums?
Yes.
Okay.
I played
So you
drums
did
in several
your
bands.
research.
No, I just had been in a bunch of crummy garage bands
Wait,
before
one
then.
second. You actually know how to play the drums?
I do play the drums.
This
yes.
is new. I can't believe
Yeah.
it. I worked with you for many years.
We did it. I
but
mean, and
didn't
we
know that.
we always talked about doing a boy band where, like between all of us, right?
Would have been a
NCIS.
big-
Wait,
big-
I
Would have
was
been a
never a
huge-
part of this band? Like I
Oh,
was never
shit,
going to be
wait.
a part?
No,
Did I?
sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No.
Mark Harmon was the
Right.
lead singer,
Well,
and then he didn't show up for that rehearsal, and we were like, well, never mind.
okay, maybe we
And David
can't- maybe we
McCallum was
can't.
like, I could do it. And we're like, oh, David.
You're like you're more of a one-man band.
I know.
Yeah.
We're like, David, I don't. So you're in Vancouver, and that's one of the first big gigs?
Yeah, so I didn't have a SAG card or an agent or anything like that, and I wrote a bunch of letters to different casting directors and said, "Hey, give me 10 minutes of your time anytime. I'll come in. I promise I'll impress you." And then right before,
Bold.
yeah, bold.
From Boulder, Colorado.
Patrick Rush, who's he was the head of casting at Warner Brothers, and he's like, hey, I thought I'd bring you in because no one does this anymore. This is great. Because I didn't send a headshot. I just sent a letter with like a little picture of me in the lower right-hand corner, picture of my buddy in the other hand.
This is before the internet.
Yes, it was before the internet. And we made it in right under the wire. Remember after 9/11, there was like a bunch of anthrax threats and stuff.
Yeah.
And everybody in Hollywood just stopped opening, all of their letters
Mail.
and stuff.
And we never sent
They
another.
opened yours.
He opened mine like the week before, and he's
Wow.
like, "Come on in for an audition." And so, based off of that, I booked a series regular, my first role, which was
So
a
wait a
series
minute.
regular
You
role.
did the audition for this agent, which was probably what, like a monologue?
No, I ended up not doing an audition for. I ended up not. We had like scenes prepared. We had like a bunch of stuff. So we'll just come in and do something for you. And so he got that, and he was like, you know what? He contacted this person who had been hip pocketed at the time, and said, I'll see him for this series regular role. Here's the sides. And so I went in. And he said, I just wanted to meet you. And I was like, oh, he's not taking me seriously. He just wanted to meet me. Like I'm not really in contention for this
Right.
for this role. So I said, okay, as long as we're not taking it seriously, just tell me what I did wrong at the end. I want this to be a learning experience. And he goes, all right, fine.
Mm.
And so I do the audition. He goes, what you did wrong is when I bring you back in tomorrow for the producers, you're going to mess it up. And I said, why am I going to mess it up? Because you're green. You haven't done this a lot before. You're going to try and make it better, and it's going to be worse. So that's my note. And I was like,
So
you want a
basically-
carbon copy? And he goes, yeah, I want a carbon copy. I said, okay, I'll do it.
Wow.
So I came back in the next day and I did it. And then over the course of the next, week or so, I went in like maybe 5 more times.
By the way, I have a story regarding that. Like,
Yes.
I want you to come in and mess it up. So
Yes.
one of my first gigs out of school was for a short-lived show called Street. And
I remember that show.
Oh yeah, no, I think I told you the story.
I know. I've seen it.
And I think it was just like I didn't have the sides or until the moment of the audition, and I went in and I basically just read them and I got the part, and I thought, how could they possibly have given me this? I sucked, right? So of course, then they give the actor like a day or two to think about it,
Right.
and then I go
Yeah.
in, and then I start doing kabuki theater. And then the director, and I was like, I'm going to turn this into a series regular part. Just you watch. And then the director kept on coming up to me and kept on saying, would you mind just toning it down? Would you mind just toning it down? And wait, who was because you and I talked about this, Tom Everett
Scott.
Scott.
Tom Everett Scott,
so
yes.
Tom Everett Scott, such a nice actor.
Yeah,
But
it's good.
he was watching me from afar, and I could see that he was watching me. And at one point, he just came up to me, and he kind of pulled me aside, and he goes, don't ever change. He goes,
Nice.
you're going to work for a long time. And I remember thinking, oh my God, he's laughing at me.
I love it. If you,
That's where your actor,
if you ever-
actor brain goes to.
I know, if you ever thought actors were insecure, but why?
No, but then I thought, well, I'm just going to keep doing the thing that I do, And then the director just kept on coming up to me
Take
going,
that,
take
Tom
it.
Everett,
Yeah,
stop.
take it. He was the nicest.
course.
And then the director just kept on
Jennifer
coming up going,
Connelly?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
see?
But anyway,
How do I know this?
so going back to that statement, it just
Yes.
made me think of that moment. And I totally understand what
was-
that director was telling you, or
Yes.
the casting director.
This casting director was, I was going in for like the network test for the very final part, and he kept saying it before each time. He goes, "This is the one where you're going to mess it up," And he was joking, but he was like kind of like prodding me a little bit. And I brought my drumsticks in, and I had like a little practice pad to show them I could actually play and stuff. And I kept bringing them in, and they kept saying, "You can just leave those. We believe you. We believe you." And so by the time I got to the network, they're like, I come in, and Patrick Rush finally goes, "You've brought those in for every single one. We've told you don't need to have them. Are they just props?" And I was like,
An actor prepares.
"No, I just want to be prepared." And he goes, "Okay. Are you playing mind games?" I was like, "I am. I'm just saying nobody else out there has drumsticks. They're all freaking out." And then they all started laughing a little bit. So I ended up booking,
How to get the job.
I ended up booking the role, and then that's how I got my SAG card, and I moved up to Vancouver. Kel and I moved up to Vancouver for that year. And then it was a fun show. John Regi was the executive producer on it. He was hilarious, and Oliver Hudson was the lead.
Mm-hmm.
I met one of my best buddies, Kevin Rankin. And had a fantastic year. It was awesome.
Did it go for a year?
Just 1 year. It was the same year that Smallville premiered
Oh, yeah.
for the WB. And then they had...
Which was year like 203?
We shot
202.
it 2001 we started. And then that went 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we premiered in 2002.
And when did you become a part of the NCIS?
Well, it's next
I
year.
became a part of the NCIS.
The end of season 1.
The end of season 1.
Wow,
Episode
so you
19 of
just
season 1.
kept working.
Yes, I did some movies between the two. I've been very fortunate. Like it's been great.
Can we tell one funny thing that we were
Please.
thinking about? And this will cue us up now to discuss Jimmy
Yankees?
Palmer.
So
So there was an assistant before you.
yes,
And then there were some tryouts for assistants. And so every episode there was like a different medical examiner assistant, which is hilarious to check out. And
it's kind of like Spinal Tap drummer. type
and I
of
think
thing.
Michael Belisario was even held up as a possible
that was a potential
one,
What I
but
hear.
he went and became Chip Sterling, who was Abby's assistant, who ended up framing DiNozzo for the anyway.
Don't get
And
ahead.
what a mustache!
get
that
ahead
You
of
should see him
myself.
now. He's got like a full-blown
was. He's like ZZ Top.
ZZ Top.
But you, when you began and you proved that you were the one, and indeed, as we went through season 2 and season 3, and, Cody DePoo came on board, and DePablo came on board, and we're off doo-doo with Cody DePoo.
Wait, just keep going.
So you come in, but anytime Billy Webb wanted a super techno crane, Jimmy Palmer wasn't in the
Wasn't there.
episode.
Because we couldn't afford Jimmy
And
Palmer.
so we were laughing the other day because the dialogue would be like, Dr. Mallard, where's Jimmy Palmer?
and all of a sudden a big wide shot, and we were like, well, we know where he is. He's
it's like,
home.
it's overdubbed, and it's like, oh, Mr. Palmer had a doctor's appointment. He wasn't able to come to the crime scene today. And it's like, and then you realize that, of course, the line is dubbed on the super techno crane shot
Sure.
that is actually taking all the money that would have gone to you, but we needed.
I want my super techno.
Do you remember? Do you remember that video? I want my super techno crane,
I need a super techno crane.
but we
Where's
can't.
my super techno
We
crane?
can't afford the super techno
Where's
crane.
my super techno crane?
And if anyone at home wants to go and enjoy themselves, go to YouTube and look up I want my super
I
techno
want my
crane.
super techno crane.
It is a little cartoon.
Sean Murray and I were laughing our faces off the other day at that. It's too funny.
It's especially if you know that NCIS loves its high wide shots.
Yes.
oh,
yes.
yes.
I want to ride the Super Techno.
It's 3 states away. It won't be able to be here in time, and we
It costs us an extra $5,000.
It's not in the budget. I want my Super Techno.
Where's my Super Techno crate?
What was it like when you first met McCallum, and what was that first moment of meeting this man that would become not only a friend, a mentor, but like a huge part of your life?
Well, it was interesting because I got cast on the show at the end of season 1.
Did you go through the tryout? I mean, did you go through
I just did normal. It was just a normal audition. It was a 1-day guest star. I was supposed to just go in for 1 day, one scene.
We're trying all these different people to be David's partner.
But how was David with you?
David was fantastic. It was interesting because I went in there and I didn't know him from anybody. I'd never seen The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I'm sorry to say at that time, I'd never seen The Great Escape. So I just kind of like walked in and I was like, who is this guy? Like he's quite good, but also like he's got like some swagger.
He's like a pro
to him. Like he's got some like I was talking to his wife Catherine, and I said he put off this like whole like I don't know, like
movie
Paul
star?
McCartney kind of like confident vibe, I'm like, who's this guy? Actually, he's one of the Beatles. And then they come to find out, like, in the next week after I did a scene with him, like, oh, he was one of the Beatles of, like, TV and film in the 1960s, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He was like one of the dudes. And so we came in and I did one scene with him. And then it was like 3 days later, and I just kind of thought, oh, yeah, that's done. Move on, try and get your next guest star or whatever. And then they called like 3 days later and said, can you come back next week? And I said, yeah, sure.
And then
once again.
And then again. And then again. And then the next season. Again and again.
So you were reoccurring
and at
for
some
how
point,
long?
when did they say,
time.
we're going to give you 7 out of 13, or we're going to give you...
That took a long time, I remember.
Yeah, it was interesting because
it used to drive us crazy because we were like, you were such a part of the cast.
Yeah. Playing the role of Jimmy Palmer today, Andre Whitfield.
It was interesting because that second season, I didn't have any agreement with them, nothing. And I think I did like 20 shows out of 22. Like I did almost all of them. And it would just, sometimes it would just be a scene. Sometimes it'd be like, and so McCallum says to me, like, I think my second or third time there, he goes, so a word to the wise, the man before you demanded a contract. Are you okay having a recurring gig on television? I'm like, recurring sounds great. That's fine by me. I don't need like, you know what I mean? Like I'm off looking for my own thing, doing my own thing. If this is a part-time thing, it's great.
That's a cagey veteran giving you a little piece of advice.
Yeah.
If you back them into a corner, they're going to replace you with somebody less expensive.
Absolutely.
Talk to me. Tell the story about stunts, because we were, you told it, Brian's got this great story.
Stunts.
Remember we were watching the episode where he goes running down the hill?
Yeah. It's the one with where the woman actually kills the husband, and you don't think it's the woman all along because she gives such a beautiful performance.
Oh, nice.
And you actually buy that she's really kind of like going through grief and stuff.
And in this one, there's this. And this was season 3, right? This was
Yes.
Okay. And so in the episode, Jimmy Palmer is supposed to be flying down the hill, just running down and like through frame very fast, then kind of sprains his ankle. And I remember early on, McCallum said, you should ask for a stunt man for that day. And I was like, I just have to run down the hill, like I'll be fine. It's
and by the
be
way,
fine.
most people don't know that Brian Dietzen is an avid runner.
Yes,
I mean, you are a
you are
total
very fit.
athlete.
Yes,
Athlete.
I thought, if I can ski, like I can run down like a gentle hill and make it look like I'm out of control. And McCallum just grabbed me by the arm and was kind of serious. And he goes, if you ask for a stunt man, a man who is otherwise unemployed will have a job for the day. Ask for the damn stunt man. And I was like, okay, I will. So I asked for the stunt man. And I remember he showed up that day and McCallum just kind of whispers to me, he goes, you don't even have to use him. It's fine.
Right. So you did the stunt.
Did the stunt, but the guy who was hired for the day
paid.
had a day's pay.
By the way, that's such a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
It's something that you would never think of.
you know, I mean, as
Well, you
actors,
didn't know.
we're all
You just don't
concerned about
know.
this, right? We're concerned about ourselves
what?
and about what? What do you mean?
What are you talking
Why?
about?
What's this thing?
What is this?
Why is
So
it not over here?
I remember I remember an AD who will go unnamed for the purposes of
it'll go named in my head. When
it'll
you
go
start
unnamed.
describing it.
We had been working for 17 hours and we were about to hit the 18th hour, but for this AD, it was like the 19th or 20th hour, whatever was like golden
The golden
time.
hour. Yeah.
It was, which is you get your whole day's pay again.
Like for every hour, you
Right.
get your whole day's
And,
pay.
and so, it was like quarter of the hour where he was going to get it. And he came up to the door and he was like, "Oh, they're ready for you on set." And I said, "What's the matter? This is the last shot of the day." And he's like, "I know, I was so close to golden hour though." And I said, "How close?" And he said, 14 minutes. And I was like, "Let them know I'm in the bathroom." And I went into the bathroom and I closed the door. I did the crossword puzzle for 13 minutes. And then I walked out, with toilet paper on my shoe, convincingly, and walked to the set.
Always ready.
And it was a very happy AD who never gave up if I was slightly late to a location ever again. He's like, "No, I saw Michael. He's already here. He must be over by catering." And of course, I'm like, "Just tell them."
Bribing your
Tell them.
friend.
You know,
One
we
hand washes
we
the
make
other,
these
my
deals.
friend.
We make these deals. You've become a writer now, and you've written how many episodes now? Like a few.
I've only written over the last couple of years. I've written 3 episodes now. Co-written 3 episodes.
Well, you did write one beautiful scene that you and I got to share recently about the aforementioned David McCallum and Ducky.
Yes.
We did have a moment of silence for David McCallum.
We did.
And in that moment, wanting to remember somebody who could be an astonishing camera hog. I want to say, David McCallum, you beautiful soul, but boy, did you know how to find your light. He was, and I learned so much from him out of the gate. I mean,
I think we all did. I think we all had the great big pleasure of sharing scenes that were meaty and good. We would just attack, and then he would look at you, you know, he never lost that thing that I admire so much, that wonderment. You know, he'd be in the middle of the scene and then you'd finish the scene and he'd go, "Oh, that I just love doing this with you." You know what I mean? I just love doing this with you. You know, and it was just always
But he also had technique. He was a master technician.
Well, imagine
so the
you've been doing it
craft,
for so long.
you know, there's all these different elements that go in. And if you're technically as proficient as David was in terms of matching, in terms of knowing you turn over your left shoulder instead of your right shoulder, this is where your key light is, this is where the dumb side of the camera, you know, it's like he understood how to, and what I said about, jokingly about David being a camera hog is he knew where to be in the frame and he knew where to put himself in a group shot, how to create coverage or not create coverage, how to play ball. And the story from The Man from U.N.C.L.E. is he was a recurring character on The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Oh, Catherine told me that I've not seen the pilot of that show. The pilot of the show, Ilya Kuryakin, the character that David played, had 3 lines.
Wow.
3 lines. So the title of the show was The Man from U.N.C.L.E., meaning singular. It was Robert Vaughn. This show was
Napoleon
Robert Vaughn's,
Solo, a
playing
name
Napoleon
created
Solo,
by Ian Fleming.
meaning solo, by himself. It's just the guy. He's going to be TV's James Bond.
Yep.
By midway through the first season, it's a 2-hander with 2 handsome young guys.
Yeah.
And McCallum is a
so
huge
he
teenage
knew
heartthrob.
how that worked.
He worked his way on.
He watched you and he was like, "Don't get ahead of yourself,
So
Mr.
that-
Dietzen."
Yes, please
There
tell
was a
those stories
story.
because those are my favorite.
There was
McCallum
a story
stories.
there's a story that I told with his family recently, and I remember this one time we were doing a scene with Mark, and I, especially it must have been like season 4 or 5, something like that. And I didn't have a lot to say, but usually what I had were punchlines, you know, like in Autopsy. He would deliver the bulk of the expository stuff, and then I would have a punchline here or there, make myself look silly or kind of shy away from Gibbs. And between takes, I got a laugh or two out of some crew member. And between takes, he came over and he said, don't think I don't know what you're doing. And I said, what am I doing? And I actually thought, like, are we about to have our first like conflict? And he goes, I did it to Robert Vaughn from years. Like, you're stealing these scenes from me, Dietzen. And I was like, really? And he goes, keep doing it.
Well,
and I was like,
yeah,
thank you. I will.
And he said the same thing to me. He would come up to me and say, what you are doing is so lunatic, or whatever, some word about like a wolf, you know, baying at the moon, like a true lunatic. And I said, oh, is it too much? And he's like, oh no. Is it perfect? Because Harmon's this and you're that. He understood the dynamics, and he read the script in a way where he knew, oh, we need pathos here. We need a little twinkle here. We need camaraderie here. We need sense of isolation here. And he could pull that from all of that stuff that he experienced in his life. And David's life was extraordinary, from how he grew up to the huge pop star success he had in the 60s, to the tragedies that he lived through, the friendships and the career highs and lows. You know, I bought this audiobook, you know, for a flight, and it was Martin Amos's book about London Fields. So I download it and I get on the plane, and I'm going to listen to the thing because, you know, I don't know if I have Wi-Fi or whatever. So I put my headphones on and it's David McCallum reading London Fields. And I just am like laughing because of course it's David. So it's distracting. I'm like, is there someone else that read this? Because it's like too much. But you can hear him twinkling in his audiobooks. He does great voiceover.
The twinkle thing. Well, yeah, I mean, he wrote his own book, the Crooked Once a Crooked Man, and he, of course, you know, narrated that. He did tons of books. The interesting part about working with him, to me, was he would get, like Cody said, he'd get very, very excited about the interaction between actors, right? But then there's also that stuff on NCIS and on many shows where you have to make the donuts. You have to deliver the exposition, right? You have to just say, you know, talk about the, you know, how much this organ weighed and how this and that and how Neolithic man ground down his teeth. And that's why we can prove that this happened when he was chewing, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. And I'll never forget one time we were, he had this long drawn out diatribe about sequencing of what this person did before he died. And it was not, I'll be honest, the dialogue was pretty dry, you know, not very interesting. And by the end of this like little diatribe he was smiling to himself and kind of giggling a little bit. And I was like, what's going on there, bud? And he goes, I make this shit sound good, you know? And it was this recognition of like, yes, I'm here to have fun and perform with my partners and all that sort of stuff, my scene partners, but also like, I'm here to entertain.
Right.
Like that, he never lost sight of that part of it.
Did he ever talk to you about how he memorized his lines, what his process was?
Well, yes.
Can we talk about it?
Please, yes. So these note cards here.
Do you know about this?
He has note cards, right?
Yes.
He has
note cards that are, it's similar to the script.
Similar
to the script. But what he would do is he'd go through and he would pull out his Grey's Anatomy and he would make sure everything was correct as far as the, you know, the anatomy and references to any sort of medical jargon whatsoever. And he would rewrite things. And in terms of rewriting things, it wasn't so much like a disrespect for like, I just want my character to sound this way and this way and this way. But I think once in a while, maybe it ventured into like, this actually might be a more clever retort, you know? And so when he would memorize the stuff that he had corrected. And then on the day that we're shooting, he'd go to Suze, who's our scriptie, and hand her his lines and say, this is what I'll be saying today.
You're kidding me.
No.
And how did that go down with Suze? Because I don't think a lot of people could get away with it.
It's better to ask forgiveness than permission.
Yes, exactly. And also, I think he was also smart enough to know he's the elder statesman here. And I'm 80 years old, and this is how I've memorized it.
Yes.
What am I going to, what's the defense against that? You know, you just go, okay, cool, let's do it.
I remember him telling me once that he would take those cards or copies of the cards, and he would sit in the tub, and he would like put them, he would get them wet and put them on the wall, and they would stick.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You never told me that.
Yeah, that's what he told me that once, and I was like, you sit in the tub and you memorize your lines. And I think his point was, yes, I memorized them because I had a certain flair for non-memorization.
You and I had a conversation after he passed, and it was a really beautiful conversation regarding your friendship with him. And at the end of that, I remember saying how wonderful it was to watch that for so many years. And one of the last moments you had with him in which you both were able to tell each other, I love you, you know, which is a gift that a lot of people don't get to have.
Yeah, I didn't get that with my mother when she passed away, you know, and David, over the course of 20 years, he was a dear friend. He was a mentor. He was a family member. Like we've had this NCIS family, you know. And I mean, I know you guys probably said the same thing when it comes to talking to people in the press, and you go, oh, it's like a family. And for some reason, they're like, oh, that's great. You know, you guys just love each other.
No, that comes with its set of hiccups.
No, it's like actual
I said
family.
it's like a family.
People who don't get along sometimes there's a scallywag.
Gotta work it out.
Sometimes, you know, all that. But at the core of it, is love.
You work through it.
You work through it because you want to, not because you're forced to.
Well, also the contract, you're forced.
Yes, the contract you're forced. That said,
you're forced.
Yes.
So in many ways, like either you're going to do it willingly and sort of go like, okay, we got to make this work, so might as well make it happy.
But what about being on those ATVs when you guys came in with your goggles? Do you remember that episode?
I do. Yeah, we had a clip from that in the show that I just wrote with Scott Williams. The episode was called Ignition.
You're awfully close to that body, Timothy.
I'm just trying to get a look at what's on his back.
Totally hilarious.
It was hilarious.
Self-driving car episode? No.
That one.
No, that was drivers.
That was
something Ed or something.
That was the driver. I can't remember that one.
Okay.
I remember that one though, where Sean Murray said, I was sitting there at the crime scene. He was like, God, I don't know how this one line makes sense. And he was, you know, we were talking about it, and I said, Sean, we're doing a show about a robot car. It's fine. Anyway. Okay, good point. Good point. Like sometimes.
By the way, that's one of my favorite things about Sean. His kind of dry, like delivery. Good point.
Good point.
Just nothing else. Just like good point. Walk away.
I'm now going to go episode specific because we find this Civil War era, you know, capsule, and it turns out that there's
still sealed.
Have you ever found any kind of treasure artifact? Have you ever gone with a metal detector on the beach, anything like that?
I've never gone with a metal detector on the beach, but I will say, shortly after my wife and I bought our first house, which is a very, very small starter home, I was chopping down some oleander in the back, you know, because it's poisonous, and so I was digging up the roots, and then I found like a blanket, and I was like, oh my gosh! And then underneath that, some more clothing in it. I immediately thought,
oh no,
I'm about to dig up a dead body.
Oh
in the backyard.
boy!
Oh gosh! Like I do this for pretend at work, and now I'm about to do it for real.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I guess I got to keep digging, and I kept digging, and I found like a couple toys.
Oh, now
that was it.
And now you're like, oh, it's going to be a child.
I know,
so it was like a burial for toys?
It was like, I don't know how it got in there, how long it had been there, but it goes to show, you know, you got plastic toys. They're going to stick around forever. So that's the only treasure I've ever dug out before.
On a more serious note, the greatest treasure you've ever found, literally or figuratively?
The greatest treasure I've ever found.
Literally or figuratively?
Oh, yeah.
You're putting you on the spot here.
Well, I was going to say something, and I was like, you can't say anything.
Who's
you
your
just
favorite
have to
child?
It's kind of easy. It's kind of easy. Well, the way that you get away from that is that I just have to say it's my wife. Like
that's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, it's Kelly.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay, let's bring, you get a cashmere blanket.
There we go.
That is the correct answer.
Yeah, because she's the one that gave me my two children as well. So, and
it covers a lot.
It covers
I have to say,
everything.
though, you were one of the people that whenever I needed that kind of solid family foundation advice, I would go to, because you were one of those people that I felt had their thing really done right. You know, your relationship with Kelly to me was
Thank you.
a real inspiration. How you rallied, you know, during pregnancy and how you just allowed her to be this like kind of, I remember you were like, you'd say things like, oh yeah, no, Kelly's definitely like pregnant in the kitchen, like doing whatever she needs to do because, you know, she's pregnant. And I was always like, oh man, that's so cool. And I loved the stories of you and Kelly, and you've been together for how long? Because this is a really sweet story.
Yeah, we got together. We met in high school.
Oh
So,
So only about 10 years, really.
Yeah, like 5.
15. Yeah, I got an anniversary coming up. There's a reunion coming up soon. Actually, she her older sister showed her a picture of me when she came into when she was a freshman in high school and said, "This is the boy you're supposed to date."
Wait, but why?
Because
she just thought you were cute.
She just
or
thought
because
I was
she just...
nice. Yeah, we like traveled in similar circles, you know, like and that's it wasn't a huge high school. She said, "This is the boy you should date." And and we ended up not dating while I was in high school. I went to college for my freshman year, and she was just finishing up high school. And then we met at a party. We met again at a party, and there you go.
And that was it.
And
you've been together ever since.
Hats off.
It happens.
Yes, hats off.
So I have another NCIS-centric thing. What do you think the weirdest episode of NCIS, like just the weirdest?
We've had a lot of weird ones.
I know, but
we've had some
because
weird
there is a
ones.
scene in this episode where it's like Ziva says, "This is very weird. This must be the weirdest thing."
A Marine dressed as a Civil War soldier is shot by a musket and then buried alive in a 140-year-old antique iron casket. And you're telling me this isn't your strangest case?
And Genozo and McGee are eating
remember
sandwiches,
laughing
and we're like, "Yeah, no, this is not the. This is. I mean, it's not even
Like
top
the
10,
top 30,
Yeah, it's
top
like
40.
And then you take a bite of my sandwich,
I do.
Yeah,
And then I try to do it again and you stop me.
and then I give you my sandwich. I'm not getting your
that was a good
herpes.
scene.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
come on.
Oh,
So-
so we had to take it there.
So the weirdest,
We're better than that.
one. I mean, I would say Kill Ari with Sasha dressing up and all,
Such a good show.
It was
being a
such good
projection.
show.
I mean, it's amazing, but
I'm
it's
gonna go
also
on record. I'm just gonna say it. Don Belisario is a good writer.
Don Belisario
You know
Give
is
that guy a
fantastic
chance.
Finally, someone said it.
writer.
somebody
Someone
give that guy a
finally
TV
said it
series.
out loud.
Hopefully,
He
he'll make
actually-
some money
he's-
one day.
Wait,
Yeah,
one
he's-
second. You think you're the only one that said it?
I'm just saying. I'm maybe the first to go on record, but yes. He's talented.
He's very good at writing and
fantastic.
character
No,
development
he's
and setting up story. And,
incredible at it. The weirdest the strangest episode of
The
NCIS.
weirdest episode.
With strangest or
Weird. I think weird is good.
Weirdest?
I mean, strange, weird, but like,
what's the one with the crop circles?
oh yeah, that was a good one.
That was my son was just watching that. the
Patrick
other day.
Swayze's brother's in that episode.
which one's that one? Is that the one where I'm sitting on top of your shoulders and we're doing that whole thing?
No, it's Sasha.
Oh,
For
okay.
its first 2 seasons.
It's the second season. What's the one where the guy is in the basement and has his eyes gouged out?
Oh,
Oh yeah.
God.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
There's some weird one. You know, okay, but weird as far as weird goes. And it's a classic, and I love the episode. But weird for my money. The episode Meat Puzzle
Oh yeah.
when someone is threatening to kill Ducky, and they threaten to kill him by delivering large, 50-gallon barrels of body parts to his house continually,
Yeah.
like multiple times. It's a little weird.
Step back, please. Step back. Thank you.
And his
I mean,
mother
it's not-
lived there with all the
it's not
corgis.
just weird. It's really dark.
It's a little dark.
It's, like
It's a
really
little weird.
dark.
Until you get Tony DiNozzo out there with some corgis that he's trying to wrangle.
Here's Tony. Come on. Here you go, guys. Come on. Who's got treats in the house?
That was one of my favorites, actually. Okay.
Can we get some corgis?
Can
in here,
we
like,
talk a little bit? Have you ever been in a Civil War reenactment?
That's why I was late today. Yeah.
We knew it. We knew it,
Yeah,
which is
it's
why
just-
we prepped the question.
You were, yeah.
I have not. I've not had the pleasure.
Well, because, and do you, yeah. We're not going to talk about
Were you
my
going to ask me like what side I would for? It would be
No,
for the north.
would you use the
saying
Pooh
right now.
Boys bucket? Because I'm just the little Pooh Boy.
Oh my God, the
I'm
laugh.
just a
The laugh
little
during that
boy.
moment, by the way. It's so good.
The shame. The shame.
So, out of
Tony.
the NCIS main cast of all seasons, including Wilmer. Who is the most likely to participate in a Civil War reenactment? Gary Cole. No.
Oh, Gary
would be fantastic.
Gary, here's the thing. Gary can be in anything.
Yeah, that's true.
He's a fantastic actor, and I think he's also a guy who's really game for anything. He's up for anything. So I would probably put. You know what?
Include
Deanna.
Oh, really?
Deanna Reasonover.
Okay.
She
history buff.
I just think she's another person. She's always game for stuff. She's a wonderful writer, big into improv. She also loves.
I really liked meeting her.
She also
really
loves
cool.
games. Loves games. She goes to a game club with her wife, and they play all sorts of board games. She's big into D&D and stuff like that. So if there's someone who's like, hey, there's a day where we're going to pretend to go do this stuff,
She might be. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say if somebody said that they were going to a Civil War reenactment, I'd call that a red flag. I'm just going out on a limb. I'd be like, ding, 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 alert, alert, DEFCON red. Just step away from this person.
That reminds me of when Danny Rua was telling the story of her husband going on a date in Mexico with a model that said, you're a white wizard?
A white wizard.
Yeah. If you knew Dave, who's super, sitting across the table from, some model going oh,
she ran the astrological charts and everything.
And he just kind of went, thank you so much. Exit left.
Yep. That's called we punch out.
Punch out.
Yep. I'm out.
See ya. I'm out. What we're going to do right now is we're going to play a scene. It's a fake scene. It's not a real scene. It's a flashback of sorts from a Civil War reenactment. And in this scene, Anthony DiNozzo Sr. and Anthony DiNozzo Jr., Tony, who's about 10 years old in this scene, they are there because Sr. loves the Civil War reenactment and he's an enthusiast. And Tony is being dragged along, and he's the little poo boy. He has to carry the poo bucket for all the soldiers to poo in. I don't know why they wouldn't just find a bush, but I guess you found Tony with a bucket. So you, Brian, will be playing Tony with a bucket. I am going to be Anthony DiNozzo Sr. Hello.
Okay. Young Tony DiNozzo approaches his father, Anthony Sr.
Dad, do you have a moment?
Of course, Junior. What is it?
I was thinking, maybe this year I could do something different. Maybe not be the poo boy anymore.
Senior looks at Tony, then glances at the bucket, a concerned expression crossing his face.
You don't want to be the poo boy anymore?
No, sir.
Anthony Sr. bends down to his son.
Tony, let me tell you something. This war is going to last a long time. We're going into the winter months now, and the nights are going to get colder. The men, they're going to need to stay strong. They're going to require sustenance, big, warm bowls of chili to stay strong, to keep their bowels flexible. Do you know what that means?
Tony's face falls as he realizes his father isn't giving him a new role.
It means I'm still the poo boy.
Senior nods solemnly, placing a hand on Tony's shoulder.
You're not just a poo boy, son. You're not just carrying a bucket. You're carrying the morale of this entire camp, one scoop at a time. Be grateful we're not having the corn chowder.
And that was it.
I had to throw the corn in there. I don't remember eating corn.
Corn?
Remember that? Phyllis Diller. Corn? I don't remember eating corn.
Where's that from? I think
it's Phyllis Diller. So stupid. when because she used to do this scat act, like a scatological, and this is my memory of it. I could be totally making this up, but my memory is that she's like, when you look at your own poo, and then sometimes you're like, corn? I don't remember eating corn.
That's where it came from?
I don't know. I might be making it up. I don't think I am, though, because I'm not that creative.
I like your memory.
I actually think you're pretty creative.
Okay. Cody, were there any feelings of excitement about coming back after having had an episode off? Because there had been, in the run of the series, a few different... Talk about that.
I had a job, guys.
Pretty cool, right?
I had been tested, and then I remember after my third episode, I think right after I left, somebody said, one of the producers said, by the way, you got the job. You're going to be a series regular. Inside, I have to say, when I booked the job, I was like, of course I'm going to be a series regular. You know, I knew that I was tested and I wasn't really giving myself the option. But at the end of the day, I had a job and it was a job. So for me, it was just an awesome feeling. And I think you can track it in that particular, there was something about me that was just very happy, you know, and I was like, so eager to explore this character, you know, and it was just I remember this episode vividly too, because, we had a location and I showed up to the location. I went the other way. I went the other way. So I was really late. And I thought, oh God, what's going to happen? Because I had heard the stories about the clocks and about this, about being late. And I showed up, you know, tail between the legs. And I saw Harmon and everyone was just so great. And they just understood. And Harmon was like, kid, it's happened to all of us. Come on, let's just get ready. And I think it was just
funny. That's not how he did it with me.
He was great. I understood. I think he understood too that it was, you know, it was one of my first sort of gigs. I was young. I was green. It was not my intention to be late. You know, I immediately called the AD and I was like, oh my God. You know, I had gone in the other way, like literally 30 minutes the other way instead of like north, it was south. So it was, you know.
Oh, and when you get on an LA highway the wrong way.
It was so.
Especially when it's raining.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ask that second question.
Okay. So, Michael, what car were you driving at the time? And what would you typically be listening to on your way to set? I know this because it's kind of an intense...
Yes. So, but I had a Jeep Wrangler.
Yes.
I remember that one.
And I would listen to a lot of things. The Guillemots.
Oh, I love the Guillemots.
I would listen to... I always am listening to my...
I love you too.
Elvis Costello, The Police, Squeeze, Joe Jackson. There's the guys that I listen to. But in that particular sort of realm of time, I remember that the Gorillaz had a new album out. And I was very into that.
Can you talk about the license plate?
The Damon Albarn. I had a license plate that was... sort of benign. I think it had the dealership on it. And then one day I was driving on the 5 freeway. People kept honking at me and waving when they drove by and pointing at me and with their cameras, you know, this is before iPhone. So like they actually had technical, like physical cameras and they were taking pictures of my car.
What were you doing?
And I was like, God, I don't know what's happening. And this went on for about a week.
Were you like, I've made it?
I didn't know. I didn't know what was going on. I'm in a Jeep Wrangler. Maybe I should start putting the top up. Maybe, you know, maybe this is how Brad Pitt feels.
Price of fame, baby.
Right. Maybe this is what the Clooney has to go through. I get it. And so I'm walking to my car at the end of a day one day, and I see my license plate has a kind of strange license plate cover on it. And as I get closer, it says, ass, grass, or cash. No one rides for free. And there were two silhouettes of strippers on either side.
Like the ladies in the mud flaps.
Yeah.
But did you not know that was there?
I had no idea. And it turns out that Mark Harmon had put it on my car weeks earlier.
You're kidding
as
me.
a prank.
This was a Mark Harmon special.
This was a Mark Harmon special.
Oh.
So I went and did Arsenio Hall's show, and he had heard the story. So he gave me a license plate to put on Mark's car, and it said gay, gray, and ready to play.
Did you do it?
No, I put it on Frank Cardia's car.
Okay, all right. Well,
who's an executive producer, writer.
By the way, one of my favorite Mark Harmon pranks, and I'm sure you've got yours because we all have them. But one day I walk into my trailer, and on my trailer, there's a tiny little lizard hanging from a noose.
oh my gosh.
Oh, yes,
And
I remember
on
that.
the noose, there was a little paper that said, I couldn't take it anymore. And the little tiny lizard is just hanging. And I just went out. I was like, my initial response, oh my God. And then I got close and I was like, you.
Do you remember?
But the best part was he would like wait for the reaction outside and then he'd go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember those Cliff Bar pranks?
No. No.
I think this was me and Sean. So,
Oh, yes, I remember.
So Cliff Bar are these sort of
I love Clif Bars.
granola, oatmeal-y kind of things.
They're
And if you
great.
get them warm, you can really shape them into anything you want.
God.
Very poo-like. And so
There you go. You shape poo.
So
huh?
I would
Okay.
go up and I would take two of them and sort of flatten them out, and then I'd pop them into Sean Murray's toilet in his trailer. And then I'd go out and Sean would come in like running from the car, like I got to go to the bathroom. And I knew that he was going to open his trailer and take a pee and pee on these two Clif Bars in the toilet. And then I would wait outside, and when I would hear, oh, and then that meant that somebody went into your trailer and dropped a deuce. And so Sean, is coming out, and I would just walk by. And then like a week later, I would go to my trailer and I'd open the thing and there'd be, I'd sit down and I'd go, and I'd be like, what is that smell? And then I'd pull my pants up a little and look in the toilet, and there was like a mess, like a hot mess.
What?
And I was like, what? Somebody had diarrhea just in my tray, like left it, didn't even flush it. So I went outside and I started calling for an AD. I'm like, somebody's been. Oh, and then I went back in and I looked around and I was like, somebody had taken like a boiled egg yolk and that sulfur smell, which had
God,
filled the whole.
Michael.
And then I looked around. I'm like, that's chili, and that's a little Clif Bar.
Oh, Michael.
And somebody had made a mess. And then I left my trailer and I walked into the squad room and Sean was like, how you doing, bud? And I was like, how you doing, bud? And he's like, good. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Do you have any stories like that?
really?
Do you have any stories like that? Any
Oh, my
pranks
gosh.
or anything like that?
Well, video games. We did have some video games during certain years.
Yeah, we did. That was nice. The one that I'll never forget was, okay, so I dislocated my shoulder one time, and
Doing what?
I was working on my garage and the bench broke, and so
I thought it was like an
no, it
NCIS
wasn't on
stunt.
set. It wasn't on set. No.
Yeah.
And anyhow, I popped it back in, but I still had to have surgery on it. But I didn't want to tell any. It was like it was either the second season.
Don't be
or the
difficult,
third
Mr.
season,
Dietzen.
where I'm like,
Don't ask for a contract.
I want to keep the job, right? So I don't want to tell anybody. So I didn't tell anybody. And I knew I could, and it was going to be a period of time, and I was going to have the surgery at our Christmas hiatus, our holiday break. And so I had my medical examiner field kit right there, ready to go. And I was about to get up and go, take it into the crime scene. And waiting. It's like, okay, waiting. Halfway through, I get the cue. I go down to pick it up. And this thing weighs like 70 pounds.
A classic Harmon.
And I could feel my shoulders go, go down and then like go back up. And I was like, so there's like there's one take where in the dailies, I'm sure, where I'm just like, I'm coming in with these wide eyes, like,
Yeah.
setting it down, just gonna, like I'm like going over to the dead body, being like,
The worst thing you could do is show weakness.
You can't.
It was-
Never apologize.
Once we walked into
Oh,
this
it's-
awful factory, and I think we were shooting something, and Mark, I think, had been like clocking me for months, and he was like, nothing gets her, like, what's her weakness? And we were walking down this floor. It was like this basement, and all sorts of pipes were exposed, and all of a sudden I saw a dead roach, and we were in the middle of the scene.
I
Remember?
remember this so well.
And,
Oh
and
my
it was
God.
like, Ziva face, gun face. Everyone had their gun
Yeah,
face
yeah,
on.
yeah.
We're going to ask you for your gun face,
Oh,
even though
gun
Jimmy
face.
Palmer doesn't do gun face. But but I saw the roach, and I just went, ah, like that. And I just saw Harmon. He just went,
Yep. You
Oh my
saw.
God.
the light turned on.
Yeah.
he just went, oh my God. And since then I found
Yeah.
roaches.
You
all
show
over.
weakness. At your
Show
peril,
weakness.
Yeah.
you show weakness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we all learned our lessons.
I was coming from New York, so you could imagine. A
Yeah.
roach, I was like, ah!
Yeah.
One of my favorite episodes is of yours, besides About Face, which I think is an incredible.
funny.
But we'll save that because we know we're going to get to that at some point. But another one that I love is the one where you're on the ledge. It's after I left the show,
Yes.
but with
Oh,
the
yes.
jumper.
the
One of
first season after you left the show.
one of the best episodes of the series, I
Yeah.
think. I mean, certainly performance-wise for you, but I think the whole episode really is
the whole
great
episode
too.
was wonderful. It was meant to be. It was meant to be
What
a
was the
clip
name
show.
of that?
It was called Keep Going.
Oh.
written by Scott Williams. It was directed by Terrence O'Hara.
Oh,
And,
love
Terry.
Terry.
Yeah, it was wonderful. It was actually the first show that we did after Gary Glassberg passed away.
Mm.
And we were kind of in between. Gary Glassberg was our showrunner at the time, obviously, and so we didn't know who was running the show there for a short period of time. And Scott was one of our veteran writers, so he said, "Oh, I'll just write this next one, and we'll figure it out." Obviously, everyone kind of deferred to Frank and George, Frank Cordia, George Skank, and they became the eventual showrunners. But in this interim space, Scott worked up this show that was going to be kind of a clip show, a Jimmy Palmer clip show, where he's going to be talking a kid off of a ledge and not, prevent him from committing suicide. And what started as being like a just a shortened schedule sort of thing, all of a sudden they built like the exterior of this building on our stage, and I was up there for 5 days straight with this kid, and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience.
What a fun thing to do.
Yeah, it was a 7-day shoot. We shot 1 day less, and it became a pretty awesome. It was like one of my favorite weeks. So on this week in November,
There we go. That's a good thing to say.
November,
on
birthday month.
Birthday month. It was like a week before my birthday. I'm performing this wonderful 2-man play with this wonderful actor.
Awesome.
And at night, what am I doing? I'm going home and I'm watching the Cubs win the World Series.
Oh.
So that was a
So it
week.
was like-
that was a week
it
to
was,
remember.
It was pretty great. It was
Yeah.
it had a great time. And then that show aired, I think in must have been like January or February.
I remember talking
people
to
really
you on
loved
the
it.
phone around that time that you were shooting this.
Yeah.
And what
And you just started.
I was just starting Bull, and what a complicated time October into November of
Yeah, it
2016 was. I believe there was a presidential election.
Somewhere around
Oh,
there.
yes, I
Somewhere around
remember.
there. Call me Ishmael, as they say in Moby Dick. We have been having a little too much fun. So it's time to get a little serious as we play Civil War trivia. You heard me correctly.
Oh,
I'm taking
God,
you
you
back to
guys.
1861 to
This is,
1865, a
guys are gonna
time
ace
in our
this.
nation's history when the very integrity of the Union was at risk, where we had a secessionist South, where we had Confederates, and we had, you know what? And there will be no questions about the Dukes of Hazzard. I have made sure, so we will not be talking about
Those are the ones I was
the
gonna
General
nail.
Lee. Okay,
I was gonna do
Cody
on those
DePablo,
ones.
what year did the Civil War begin?
God.
I actually just said it.
No,
Oops.
1850,
Close. No.
1860. Wait, what? I'm getting mixed messages here. 1871.
10 years off, 1861.
Why are you giving me the
Dietzen.
wrong information?
I did.
Okay, Brian, this is a tough one.
You gave me the wrong information.
Brian.
He's, by the way, giving me a cheat sheet, a wrong one.
Yeah.
What,
No, but you gotta-
what Civil War battle caused the most casualties? It's a very famous battle. And
Gettysburg.
you looked at the answer.
I did not. I did not.
Did
I did not.
That was going to be my guess, but I'm
It
not sure
was
if it's right.
not. It was not going to be your guess.
You're
That's
a
probably
cheater, lotus eater.
When you said it's very famous,
Gettysburg. I was going to give you, there was an address.
that would give it away.
the Gettysburg Address.
Okay.
Maybe a little
Wait,
bit.
what?
Who, okay, I'm going to ask Dietzen first on this one. Cheat.
I'm not looking at you. I can't read that
Okay.
far. I'm not wearing
looking.
glasses.
I'm not looking.
Who was the president of the Confederate States during the Civil War?
Lincoln.
No, the Confederacy was run
Confederate.
by. Now I'm just coming up with the general, which is Lee. But
Okay, I'll give you a hint. You want a hint?
yeah.
There was a president whose last name, one of the first presidents of the United States, whose last name, if you run through them out loud, is the first name.
Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, Madison, James, Adams, John, Jefferson, Thomas,
Jefferson
Davis. Jefferson.
Remember him?
Dave.
There's a reason we don't have
I
statues
do.
of that dude.
Well-
Okay. How long did it take Abraham Lincoln to deliver his famous Gettysburg Address? Okay. 2 hours, 12 minutes, 42 minutes, or 2 minutes? Cody DePablo.
2 minutes.
You looked at these. God damn.
No, I didn't. I'm actually looking at details.
I
Do you remember?
But I was like, should I trust him? And I was like, I should trust this.
What's the first line of the Gettysburg Address?
You guys, this is like...
No, but four score
7 years
ago. That's not on the thing. I just... now, isn't Lincoln the guy who wrote the letter that said...
the guy.
Yeah. Lincoln was the guy who wrote the letter that said, I apologize for the length of this letter. I didn't have enough time to make it shorter.
No.
No?
That was... Oh, gosh.
Do you understand that concept?
Yes, I do. Dress me slowly, for I am in a hurry.
Who was that?
I don't know, but
I feel like it was
I worked with this writer
Oscar
once
Wilde?
who turned in a 76-page draft, and I'm like, did you not have enough time to make this shorter? For fuck's sake. Do we really have to read
that was
a like?
That was definitely a writer. I can't remember which writer it was, though.
No.
I want to say Wilde, but I think I'm wrong.
What was the era after the Civil War called? Reformation, Emancipation, Reunification, or Reconstruction?
Reformation.
It's Reconstruction.
Correct.
You guys, I hate this guy.
Okay. Okay.
Give me some Chilean history.
Ready?
I hate this game. I hate
Ready?
it. I'm sitting out. I'm going to take my ball and
Ready?
I'm going to sit down.
There were 13 men who stormed the Capitol in 1863. Name them. No, that's not a real question.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. What was the name? Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in his second term of office. Is that correct?
Don't look at me. Look at Brian.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Who would have been president if Abraham Lincoln had been assassinated in his first term of office?
Who would have been president?
If Lincoln had been assassinated during his first term?
I'm going to guess the vice president at the time.
And who was that? It's a good one.
Is it?
Hannibal Hamlin, senator from Maine. But it's not on these cards, baby. I just knew it. You know why? Because it was my dad's
making it
party
up.
trick. That was his party trick
Hannibal
question.
Hamlin.
A senator from Maine.
Oh, that crazy old guy.
Brian Dietzen, it's been a deep, somewhat disconcerting pleasure.
Disconcerting. Likewise. It's been wonderful. Thank you guys for having me.
It's been real.
It was interesting talking to Brian. Can he come back?
I think we should have him back.
I think we have more to talk about.
I think there's a special Brian Dietzen episode, like a Jimmy Palmer episode coming up. I'm not sure if it's season 4, season 5.
No, maybe there's one in season 3. But I have some fan questions for you.
Okay.
Can we go into fan questions right now?
Let's do that.
Out of all your action scenes, which one was the most physically challenging for you and to shoot that you can remember? I remember one that you had.
Physically challenging, I think there were many that were physically challenging because I think, after shooting and shooting and shooting, you'd be exhausted, especially from fight sequences. But there was one sequence that I remember. It was the jackknife, remember? When the truck was coming? And
yes.
And I remember that because I was supposed to stand in front of this incredibly large truck. It was, I think, like a 16-wheeler. And I was supposed to hold a gun and defiantly look at that truck. And with this gun, of course, I was going to defend myself, right? As this thing is coming at me.
No,
and then it jackknifed. And then it started moving forward. And I remember at the time, George, was standing at the top of the truck. And as it was coming towards me, I saw that part of the truck tip ever so slightly forward. And I saw somebody pick him up from the back. And at that moment, I felt the thing was going to tip over and it was coming directly at me. And so at that moment, I just jumped ship. I just went,
good girl.
And I just went, run for your life. And I just took off running, because when you see stuff like that, it's pretty scary. And of course, you've got everyone saying things like, well, it's never going to happen. That was never going to happen. This is all controlled. But the truth is, when we were rolling, people get excited. And I think they went just a little, ever so slightly faster than they should have. And the thing was a little bit out of control, just a tad, never to the point where it could have gone horribly bad, but enough for me to see something off and enough for me to go, run. And I did.
You're a very brave woman.
Well, I mean, it wasn't physically exhausting or physically challenging, but I did feel physically exposed.
At risk.
Absolutely.
My most challenging one that I loved.
Underwater.
Loved it.
Yeah. And it's so funny because I think that would have been my, I think I would have had a problem with that.
Yeah. Requiem, season 5. I think season 5. I loved that sequence.
And by the way, it's such a great sequence. How it starts, how that entire episode starts running down.
The camera out of focus. I remember Shane Brennan telling me about it. But
and it really does look like a Bond action sequence. It's a really cool action sequence.
The underwater tank in Sunland where we shot, they had speakers under the water.
So you could hear everything?
So you could hear the director.
Oh my God.
And it was Tony Warmby.
But wait, one second.
So you had underwater...
Tony Warmby? Like,
I'll have that.
I'll have that.
Well done, that man.
Well done, that man. But question, did you have air tanks?
Yeah, so what would happen is you were on a pontoon up on the top. I had to dive down, and I had to naturally swim. I don't even know if I could do it now, quite honestly. Like because I had to go down 15, 20 feet.
That's enough. That's enough for it to feel very scary.
Well, you feel the pressure.
Sure.
And you have to get down, and I would swim past the camera, and then there would be somebody there with the tank down there. So I would be out of breath where I didn't have enough maybe to
go back
even
up.
Come back up.
See, that would be enough for me to freak out.
And I had to go around and like punch out the windshield and do all the acting with Gibbs on the window.
Didn't DiCaprio and Kate Winslet have a lot of stuff during Titanic that was quite scary?
Yeah.
I mean, I heard a story. I'm not sure if it's a rumor at this point, but didn't they have to go through very challenging water stuff?
Oh, that's no rumor. Yeah, that's very true.
And that it was really, truly freezing, like really cold water.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
they're terrific actors, so I'm sure they could pull that off.
And I think that there were some stunt people too.
Oh, I'm sure.
I had a stunt double as well for that. Thank God. But we shot that in 2 different places. We shot that. Well, you know what? We're going to get to that episode when we get to that episode. Who out of the main cast characters would be the best and worst at small talk? Best at small talk?
You.
Worst at small talk?
Mark.
It's so simple. I want to thank you for the lovely questions, you crazy kooky fan questions. And if you have any other questions, you can put them in a little message to offduty@spotify.com. Gibbs Rules.
Oh, Gibbs Rules.
Here it is. Are you ready for Gibbs Rule of the day?
I am.
It is rule number 62. What do you think it is? You read it. You
always give people space when they're getting off an elevator.
No.
Yes,
No.
I'm reading it. Always give people space when they get off an elevator.
No, that's not what it is.
Yes, it is.
When they get
That's
off
62.
the elevator.
When they get off an elevator. By the way, maybe it was typed differently on your card, but that's what it says on mine.
I just like creating conflict.
I do know that.
Cody, where can I watch NCIS?
You can watch NCIS on Paramount Plus and CBS.
Next week on NCIS Full Swing. It's not too on Off Duty next week on Spotify. What is it, Coates?
Next week on Off Duty, we're going to watch an episode about a petty officer. He's gunned down when talking to his wife on the phone. But when Tony and Ziva inform the victim's CO of the death, they discover that another man is posing as the victim. This leads the NCIS team to a possible case of mistaken identity, only to find that the victim left them a message before he died about who killed him. It's about to get real confusing up in here, people. So pay very close attention. It's season 3, episode 5, Switch.
Foof.